2, 1. This is Bruce Porter with the Wild West Crypto Show. I'm broadcasting live from the World Blockchain Summit. I have my man here, Miko Matsumura, and he has been kind enough to sit down with us. He's with Evercoin, and he is really one of the featured speakers here. I was excited to meet him and excited to sit down with him. So tell me a little bit about your project and what brought you here to the World Blockchain Summit.
Absolutely. So Evercoin is trying to fix one of the biggest problems today in the exchange business. So just to really be concise, the thing that is true about blockchain is that it's decentralized, right? But the problem with exchanges is most people are pouring all of their cryptocurrencies into centralized and therefore custodial exchanges, right? So the thing that's amazing is like they're really contravening the laws of blockchain, and we're seeing the penalties in cases like Mt. Gox or Cryptsy Exchange or CoinCheck. So there's these huge spectacular hacks, right? And these are really kind of anti-blockchain. So we're developing what we call a non-custodial exchange, which is really tapping into the soul of blockchain, and it's much, much more consonant with the way that we feel exchanges should be done.
So now, without getting too technical, okay, can you kind of explain how that works? Because of course it sounds absolutely fantastic, but how is that working?
Yeah, so all cryptocurrency is based on an extremely simple mathematics called public key cryptography. So I know it sounds pretty nerdy for some people, but the idea is that there's a public key that you can share, and there's a private key that you must never, ever, ever share, because the rule is that the owner of the private key is the owner of the cryptocurrency. Full stop. That's all there is to know. The thing that's amazing about what people are doing is they're sending their cryptocurrencies into exchanges. And when they do that, it's a black hole. At that point, you don't anymore have the private key that proves that you own anything. So the point is once you sent money into an exchange, you don't actually own that money. You have no technical recourse, which means you have no way of asserting ownership. And in most cases, you have no legal recourse, right? Which means that you can't sue the exchange and say, those are mine, because there's no real, it's like a parking lot. There's no bailment created, like there's no legal contract created when you send money into an exchange. So the pain is that you just lost your money, and maybe you'll be able to get them out. Some exchanges play tricks where you can only withdraw small amounts out at a time. They have the withdrawal limits,
sure.
And there's, so ultimately you've just lost control, and that's completely against the laws of crypto.
Well, that is really interesting, and I can tell you, of course, it's one of those things, and when we see these big hacks, I mean, there was one last week, right?
Yes, $30
million out of a Korean exchange, and I do think a lot of times that's coming from inside.
100% insiders.
Right.
There's only two things that can happen wrong so the exchange has to have a private key to that asset, right? So there's only two things that can happen is they can accidentally let that go into the wrong hands, or they can purposefully misuse, right? And that's the insider. So the insiders, I suspect that the majority of exchange hacking is insider malfeasance, right? And they can do so in such a tricky way, because what they can do is they can take the private key, they can slip it to an evil friend, and then they can pretend it was an accident and pretend to be innocent, and they're all getting kind of paid in the back end, right? It's a very dirty business.
It is a dirty business, and I do think actually it's one of the reasons why we had, I think it hit the market last week, and I think it's one of the reasons why we had the downturn. Although I do expect that the price may fall a little bit further on the Bitcoin. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't do market timing or price prediction, but what I can say is that there's probably two big forces weighing on the crypto economy. One of them is, I think, ICOs, right? So I think ICOs, all of the ICO proceeds, like $23 billion that we put in, are leaking out into fiat, right? Because all of those engineers have to pay rent, and they have to buy food, and they have to pay. So that's weighing on the crypto economy. I think the second thing that's weighing on the crypto economy is that we don't yet have the structures that enable institutional capital to flow.
Yeah, well, no, that's a really good point. And I was actually, I was just talking with the ex-prime minister of Estonia about that and the banking and everything else. So how do you think that coming to the World Blockchain Summit benefits you and benefits Evercoin and benefits the project?
So this kind of summit, the World Blockchain Summit, is really a wonderful gathering point for the leading thinkers in the space. And to me, one of the things I've noticed is that they're really drawing a lot of audience members that have a lot of legitimacy and station. You know, I'm seeing actually more ties. I'm seeing more gray hair in this crowd than I'm used to. And that's great. It's a very positive thing to see. Credibility, legitimacy, this kind of movement in blockchain, we need that to come in.
Well, speaking of gray hair, so how long have you been in blockchain?
Well, I'm relatively young in blockchain. You know, I think my start was pretty much the beginning of 2017, so probably, you know, a little bit over a year, not much.
Okay.
And, you know, it's been an exciting ride.
That is funny, yeah, because I feel like a dinosaur, you know, I feel like a grandpa sometimes out here, but it has been such an amazing thing. And I agree with you, you know, there's, as far as the regulation, and I know with the World Blockchain Summit, they're always working with the government of where we're throwing these, and then they'll have the regulators out here, and I think it's really important. So, so is that when the project started, Evercoin?
Yes, Evercoin has been operating for most of that time.
Okay.
And speaking of regulators, you know, we're working closely with regulators in Malta, and we're moving and incorporating our exchange there in order to accelerate the business into regulatory certainty, regulatory clarity. That's all we want, is we want to know what the rules are so we can follow the rules and we can be a legitimate operator with a license.
So now, where are you guys in the whole scheme of things? Did you have an ICO? Are you going to have an ICO? Are you doing a pre-sale, or has that passed? Or
So
where
here's the fun thing, is we named it Evercoin, but in fact there isn't yet an Evercoin. One of the neat things is my co-founder has been very conservative about ICOs. He's constantly quizzing me and saying, like, what would the coin do? And he, you know, he's constantly pushing on, like, what's the application? The good news is we know that exchange tokens are very successful. So we know, for example, the Binance coin has an incredibly strong utility, and it actually has created a crypto economy around an exchange. So now that we have confidence in the utility use case, we feel that it is an opportunity for us to perhaps develop an Evercoin and perhaps do a token sale upcoming.
Well, that is interesting. I know you're right. The Binance coin is, gosh, is it in the top 20?
It is a tremendously successful token.
It's a tremendously successful token. And so if you're looking at that, then of course, and if the people behind it is always important too. And as you can see, Miko is fantastic. Now, how can people get involved? What's the website? And, you know, what would you like to sell to the audience?
Oh, absolutely. The easiest way to understand what we're doing is just to go to evercoin.com. We do have an upcoming product called Evercoin 1, and actually we have a splash page. So if you go to evercoin.com, you'll be able to read up about both. You'll be able to use our existing service, and you'll be able to learn about upcoming features in our new service. So, you know, best way to go, evercoin.com.
Okay, so that's evercoin.com. Miko, I really appreciate you coming on. It was absolutely fantastic. I'll talk to you a little bit about some other stuff, but that's it. We're signing off, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, man.